The first candle we light for this season. Welcome, everybody, to Community Church of Boston. My name is Dean, and we're so excited about a whole bunch of things to let you know about as we start our season. And some people say, why do you start so late? And we were in September, early September, we'd start for a long time. And then I looked into the archives and realized that back in the day, they used to always start in October, and I never knew really why. But I found one reference to it being the new year. Happy New Year. Happy Yom Kippur. This congregation had a really significant Jewish component to it. It had a significant everything component. All faiths, all religions, all tendencies, if you will. That's who we are, and proud of it. So glad you're here in person or on Zoom or on YouTube. And we've lit our morning candle, and we start with a little inspiration. I sometimes sing a song, but this is a musical program we are kicking off the season with. So I'm going to read a couple of things. I was looking for my Eduardo Galeano day book, which is somewhere around amongst the 1 million books in this room. And someday I'd love to just give you a tour of the books, where they came from, why they're in our library. And I could almost find them all that I'm looking for, except the one I'm looking for, which I couldn't find now. But I did find a whole box of other books by Eduardo Galeano, Uruguayan favorite of mine. And it's called Utopia, Antwerp, 1515. The New World adventures bring the taverns of this Flemish port to the boil. One summer night on the waterfront, Thomas More meets or invents Raphael Hythlode, a sailor from Americo Vespucci's fleet, who says he has discovered the Isle of Utopia off some coast of America. The sailor relates that in Utopia, neither money nor private property exists. There, scorn for gold and for superfluous consumption is encouraged, and no one dresses ostentatiously. Everybody gives the fruits of his work to the public stores and freely collects what he needs. The economy is planned. There is no hoarding, which is the son of fear, nor is hunger known. The people choose their prince, and the people can depose him. They also elect the priests. The inhabitants of Utopia loathe war and its honors, although they fiercely defend their frontiers. They have a religion that does not offend reason and rejects useless mortifications and forcible conversions. The laws permit divorce, but severely punish conjugal betrayals and oblige everyone to work 6 hours a day. Work and rest are shared, the table is shared, the community takes charge of children while their parents are busy. Sick people get privileged treatment. Euthanasia avoids long and painful agonies. Gardens and orchards occupy most of the space, and music is heard wherever one goes. The Gospel according to Eduardo Galeano. And I wanted to also share this one, which I think should be on one of our sandwich boards, which maybe 10,000 people a day walk by and see, and it would say, "The law locks up both man and woman who steal the goose from off the common, but lets the greater felon loose who steals the common from the goose." Old English quatrain. I just want to start with a very personal message. I've been telling people that I feel like at the end of this summer season, I've hit the trifecta. If you don't know, it's about horse racing, and it's a big win. And my trifecta is a very serious injury that I suffered, and I'm 100% back from it with a new hip. Number two is that I have a new record coming out in 3 weeks, and it's completely recorded and ready to go. And I'm really excited to share it with the world. And it's going to be a CD, which nobody buys anymore, but I'm just kind of just consumed with a thing in my hand that I can stick into a machine and give out. Doesn't matter if they give me money, just give out like party favors or a big fancy business card. And so it's very exciting that that's coming out. The third part of the trifecta is that we had a new restaurant that opened on our first floor. And if you don't know how huge that is, you need to know that we've been vacant down there for 2.5 years, and that is our bread and butter. Sizable percentage of our operating budget for running this building and running this congregation. And not only did it open, but it opened with a line 1.5 blocks long, waiting to for this is they call it their soft opening, waiting for a free sandwich. And we got 4 or 5 of them over the course of the day for different people who were visiting. And it's a really wonderful restaurant. It's a bakery. All day they're baking bread that's called shashara. It's kind of like Italian. It's an Italian chain. All over Europe, there's 10 of them in Boston, 10 of them in the USA, 6 in New York, 2 in Los Angeles, 2 in Las Vegas. 3 more will open in Boston and another one in Nashville and Miami. And so it's a very well-organized, well-financed operation. And we're glad that they're there. It's capitalism, but that's the water we swim in. I want to end this little monologue with just what I've been doing, which is just going through a few books and telling you, using that to tell about things coming up and things going on. Yemi Prince Ogunyemi, Martin Luther King Jr. and other poems. Yemi has been a member of the church for a long time, but we little knew that he was a serious scholar on Yoruba philosophy and spirituality, and has written a whole number of books. And I've been enjoying his poems and his other books as well. That's Yemi. We call him Yemi Prince, but his name from Kenya is Yemi D. Ogunyemi. Got a couple of books about the USS Liberty in my hat, too. They are the recipients of this year's Sacco and Vanzetti Award. The USS Liberty, the 1967 reconnaissance ship that got bombed by Israel. And there was really no investigation ever of that tragedy that took the lives of about 40 young seamen, and that many and more are still alive and still demanding an investigation of what happened. Israel, it was not an accident. It was totally intentional. Find out about the USS Liberty and join us on December 14th for that award that will be given to them. You can see a list of our Sacco and Vanzetti Award winners on the wall here. It's quite an impressive list of folks, including some who, just like these, have suffered deeply for truth-telling and for their radical activism. Christian Nill is my new friend. He was here with his wife. They were just visiting, and we gave them a tour of the church. And we'd be glad to give anybody else a tour of our church. It might start with a sandwich on the first floor and then come to the auditorium, where we'd show you our famous Sacco and Vanzetti plaque by Gutzon Borglund, who also did that thing called Mount Rushmore out in South Dakota. Then we'd take you to our third floor to the Sacco and Vanzetti archives. Jerry Kaplan, the magic volunteer member of our church, who has done amazing work there, putting order together and archiving a huge library of Sacco and Vanzetti primary source materials. Then we take you to our fourth floor, which has our wonderful tenant who just changed their name. It used to be called the History Project, and now it's called Queer History. And it is the history of Boston's LGBT community, archived, preserved, and celebrated on our fourth floor. It's really wonderful. They've been here for about 3 years now, And we hope some of their archiving juju will rub off on us so we can apply it to our fifth floor, which has our own archives. It's 105 years of just a remarkable history of a church trying to do the right thing for social justice and for peace and freedom in the city, in the state, in the country, and the planet. So that's my walking tour of the entire building, and I'd love to take any one of you on the tour. I'll also just tell you about some of the groups that are able to use our space to meet. Extinction Rebellion, Sunrise Movement, Democratic Socialists of America, Palestine Working Group, Democratic Socialists of America, Ecology Working Group, Muslims for Progressive Values, Veterans for Peace. That's there's some other ones that I'm not remembering, but that's just a taste of what we want to do here and what we want to do better and more elegantly and with more effect and grace and style. Hey, this is a good one. You remember these sort of like desktop cassette players? Well, I'll tell you that we had two of these and they both got stolen. And the one that really hurt was because Randy Credico was here and he's good friends with the daughters of William Kunstler, our first Sacquin Vanzetti Award winner. And I brought a Kunstler tape from our archives to play for Randy Credico, and we listened to it, and I left that cassette deck on the table with William Kunstler in there, and it disappeared. Sorry, lost. Not too much stuff grows legs and walks out the door here. It's pretty safe here, but that one was really tough. So I just found this and bought a new one. But the best thing about it was $40, and it has a little bit a USB port, and you can stick a cassette in and get a digital version of it. And we have 40 years of cassettes upstairs that run the gamut, from Howard Zinn to Cesar Chavez to Leonard Peltier to all kinds of others that really need to be celebrated and put up on our YouTube channel and available to the world. So, I mean, this is nothing compared to what a library could do digitizing, or a digitizing service to do it faster. But this is an easy way to say, oh, I want to hear that guy and digitize her. So the world can hear them right away on our YouTube channel. And by the way, I want to thank Amar Ahmad for an enormous amount of work helping with our YouTube presence and helping us get 80,000 subscribers. Hello, all you YouTubistas. We're glad to see you here with us. And it continues. Stay tuned to our website and our Facebook page to know what's coming up. The one that comes to mind immediately is named Anthony. Is he Sergeant or Colonel? Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. He will be with us on October 13th. And he is a retired Army lieutenant colonel who took an assignment, like a contract assignment, to go to Gaza to oversee or provide security for that horrific thing called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And Anthony has just a really eloquently told and horrific story about what that thing is, and this too shall pass. And we've got to believe and we've got to act and work for that to pass. Anyway, that's Anthony Aguilar on 13th. And the day before that, we have Christian Nil. Christian Nil was a Peace Corps volunteer in Guatemala in 1981 and 1982, the worst part of the genocide that happened there. He was in Baja Verapaz, the province, and he has a story to tell. And he will join us talking about on Indigenous Peoples Day, the Indigenous people of Guatemala, which is both a beautiful and diverse salad bowl of different languages and cultures and textures and fabrics. It's just I love Guatemala, and I really look forward to hearing from Christian Nil, and that's on October 12th. A lot more coming up. I can't help but tell you that next Thursday we're having a immigration teach-in. Sarah Towell is the presenter, and it's the co-sponsors who will be here are MIRA, Massachusetts Immigration and Refugees Association. Several others. Beacon Hill Friends are involved, and the Asian Pacific Immigrants Network. And it's going to be a couple of immigration lawyers, just a teach-in on what the hell do we do in this moment of just creeping Gestapo fascism, and how do we respond effectively and nonviolently? Which brings me to the last. I keep thinking it's the last, and it's not. There's more to say, which is that I've for 2 weeks attended a Wednesday Burlington, Massachusetts demonstration. John Gibbons, who is our affiliate minister for Good Trouble, or maybe he's going to make up a different title on that, is one of the organizers of that remarkable demonstration. 700 people were there in front of that awful, evil building, and it's growing, and it's just a really remarkable show of people power there. Okay, I think I'm done. Oh no, one more thing. I can't stop. I just can't stop. This is our last season's book, which is going to be retired up to the archives. It's a public document, but it talks about everything. It has everything that we did. It has all of our amazing publications manager, Crystal Rollins Jackson. It has all of her graphic design for so many different events that we have celebrated during the past year. It also has minutes of the board meetings. It also has my monthly reports to the board. It has a wonderful article that was written about us in the Harvard Crimson about our connection with the Sacco and Vanzetti case. It has our 2024-2025 yearbook that has a list of all the Sundays. It has a Haggadah for the Passover Seder that we had, Radical Liberation Seder. Thank you to our new twin members, Sarah and Julia Lieberger, for reviving that tradition that we had stopped doing for a while. So there's so much in this book, and I just wanted to have it out for people to look at and leaf through. Finally, it's just like I see these administrators' reports, and we have for 2.5 years been consumed with the eviction, the bankruptcy of the former tenant, and the search for a new tenant, and brokers and lawyers and experts, and it's been pretty endless for 2.5 years, and we're just so excited to get in gear, in a different gear, which is a gear of peace and justice and activism and good food and fun. I hope you will all be here at 1, because I went down and I ordered 5 Alantico Vinayo sandwiches to be delivered at 1 p.m. and we were going to pay for it, but they said, nah, come on, you guys are great. It's just like we're developing this wonderful friendship with the crew down there. Many of them are Spanish speaking, and there's several Italian experienced employees who are kind of breaking people in, teaching them the baking routine, which is just a wonderful discipline, and it's great. So have a look at our yearbook, and then have a look at 105 other ones that are up there. It's just remarkable. So we're just so honored to open our season. It sounds like sports, doesn't it? God. With Greg Williams and Jacqueline Schwab. This program is called American Reckoning, Resistance, and Heart. Facing the gruesome times in which we are living, Greg and Jacqueline seek not only to conjure prejudices of the past and the efforts brave American, Indigenous, Black and Brown, LGBTQ plus migrants and immigrants, workers generally, and more mounted to conquer them, but also hope to offer solace and hope who must now continue and renew that resistance. Greg Williams was a Massachusetts District Court judge for 15 years, retiring in 2015. Since then, Greg has offered talks about historical Massachusetts crimes, including one here, sort of deep during COVID, about slavery in Massachusetts in the 17 and 1800s, notable Cape Cod figures, and the macabre, especially in October. I don't know if we're going to get some because it is October after all. Jacqueline Schwab is a renowned pianist, justly noted for her emotive playing and her ability to capture historical eras. Her piano has graced many Ken Burns documentary films, including the acclaimed Civil War, American Revolution, which is coming in November. Jacqueline Schwab, elegance, grace, and style of pianistic genius. So we welcome them to our humble stage. Thank you both for being here with us.
Thank you, Dean. Looking forward to your CD, Dean.
Here, talk into here so that.
Looking forward to your CD, Dean.
Oh.
We start, as you probably will have expected, with an observation from the 12th century German abbess, mystic visionary, saint, and composer Hildegard von Bingen. Even in a world that is being shipwrecked, remain brave and strong. A quote fitting our times, I would submit. But maybe shipwreck doesn't really cover our present chaos. Really, what we are living through seems more like what happened 21 years ago in Chicago. One of the Dave Matthews Band tour buses was driving over the Kinzie Street Bridge, which is graded metal, that is open. And on that bridge, the driver of the bus decided to empty the septic tank of the bus, which contained about 800 pounds of what septic systems contain. At that moment, the open-top tour boat Chicago's Little Lady, carrying some 120 passengers, was sailing under the bridge. About 2/3 of the boat's passengers were directly affected. Ladies and gentlemen, since January, we have been passengers on Chicago's Little Lady, sailing back and forth under the Kinzie Street Bridge. But many of us now have umbrellas. We will remain, in Hildegard's words, brave and strong. The reprehensible behavior of our federal government since January beggars belief. Jacqueline and I first performed a version of this program in August, and the immorality of that behavior has, as you know, only deepened since then. You know what those outrages are, and as tempting as the challenge is, Jacqueline and I will not try even to list them here, especially since every day brings new ones. Our aim is to offer some thoughts about how Americans and others have faced struggles against the prevailing government or society. This year is the first in the implementation of Project 2025. But it is also the 250th anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord, the beginning of the Revolutionary War. The combat ended in 1783. Thomas Paine had called the monarch the royal brute of Great Britain. And when the war ended, the former colonists, whose leaders had cataloged the depredations of King George III in the Declaration of Independence, ecstatically cast off the vicious, insane, arbitrary tyranny of the king, who was clearly mad. At least that's what we've been taught. Now, though, in this country, we do have a mad, arbitrary, and vicious government. Not the one Revolutionary era Americans faced, which was east of here, some 3,000 miles away. From this building, that madness, that viciousness is now centered south of here, 441 miles away. It is clear that this land of possibilities, and of at least the promise of liberty, was not that land for everybody. Excluded, indigenous peoples, women, black people, Africans brought here as chattel, migrants, and the successive surges of immigrants of whatever color or creed from around the world who came here, who still come here. People whose sexual preference or identity is deemed unworthy of existence. Workers who, like the enslaved people before them, actually created the infrastructure itself of this nation. We cannot look at all the struggles that these peoples endured. We can only try to conjure a very small number of them. But the point to realize about those struggles is that whatever rights have been secured, advances have proved fragile. And the fights that led to any progress must be fought anew and redoubled. The next tunes Jacqueline will play are from the Revolutionary War era. They are Chester, Yankee Doodle, and Jefferson and Liberty. The principles on which this country was founded in those times is now being purposely ignored or destroyed. Chester was written by Boston-born William Billings, generally considered the first American choral composer. The title Chester is a generic hymn name, not the case with the opening piece that Jacqueline played, Be Thou My Vision. That melody is Slane, which does have a very specific meaning. It is a village in County Meath, Ireland. Slain brims with ancient associations, but, and this is going to be the most blatant digression of the morning, it's also famed, warmly famed, for a road accident that occurred there in May 1969. Truck's brakes failed, and the truck, which was filled with bottles of Bushmills Irish whiskey, splashed into the Boyne River. Much of the town's populace arrived at the scene in vehicles that left heavier than they had arrived. No one knows how many bottles were retrieved from the River Boyne, but 5 divers were able to retrieve 408 bottles the following day. Back to Chester. I just love that story, obviously. Chester was an important patriotic anthem sung during the American Revolution. Its opening lines ring today. Let tyrants shake their iron rod, and slavery clank her galling chains. We fear them not. The lyrics name several British Army generals who, quote, together plot our overthrow in one infernal league combined. The infernal league we face now is not an imperial army, but homegrown would-be despots. The tune of Yankee Doodle could date back to the Middle Ages. By the time of the Revolutionary War, though, its lyrics, attributed to Minuteman and Harvard sophomore Edward Bangs, lauded the patriot cause. More recently, the song had been used as the interval signal for the Voice of America, and it had done that since World War II. You've heard about the Voice of America all your lives, but it has now been stripped to the bone, rendered ineffective as of this past June. The old tune to Jefferson and Liberty was adapted for use during the first contentious presidential election. The incumbent Federalist John Adams against Republican Thomas Jefferson. Federalists were interested in protecting the emerging merchant commercial class. Republicans, of course, then had nothing to do with so-called Republicans of today. Nothing. The first stanza of the lyrics reads, "The gloomy night before us lies. The reign of terror now is o'er. Its gags, inquisitors, and spies, its hordes of harpies are no more." Reign of terror sounds pretty horrifying. What does it refer to? Congress had, with Adams's approval, passed in 1798 the 4 Alien and Sedition Acts. The only one still in effect was the Alien Enemies Act, designed to augment the president's powers to detain non-citizens, but only in times of war, invasion, or predatory incursion. This is the statute the present administration invoked earlier this year to justify some of the predations of ICE. Justifying that monstrous behavior, witness Chicago on Tuesday, with its helicopters and its ill treatment at best of little children, naked, zip-tied, has become increasingly less of a bother to this administration. If you are not aghast at this lawlessness, not terrified by these intimidation tactics, maybe you should be. That last piece is Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child. It's spiritual. The spiritual gained national, then international acclaim, mostly by the Fisk Jubilee Singers, formed in 1871 at Fisk University in Nashville. Among the singers' early songs was that one, Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child. That is a song, not too obscurely, is a song of pain, separation, alienation. Someone ripped from their parents. We all remember the so-called zero separation policy first implemented in April 2018, the practice of separating children from their parents at the southern border. The New York Times recently reported on a new targeted approach. ICE presents families with a choice. The story describes a Russian family who came here legally, seeking asylum. The couple with their 8-year-old son, Maxim, would be permitted to return to Russia, which they really didn't want to do. They deemed that action impossible. Or they could stay here in detention. But Maxim, 8 years old, would be detained separately from his mother and his father. They chose the detention, and Maxim asked, a few days, right? A few days. Maxim's parents last saw him in May. Besides such obscenities, maybe a people alienated from the country they thought they lived in. But note the word in the title, sometimes. There is hope. The Battle Cry of Freedom was written by George Frederick Root in 1862, pretty early during the Civil War. It is also called Rally Round the Flag. George Root, by the way, was born in Sheffield, Massachusetts. Anybody ever been there? Yeah. Okay. Sometimes I say Sheffield, Massachusetts and get a very blank look. But South County, Berkshires. This song was a patriotic song, pro-unionist, anti-slavery, all better to boost military recruitment. The tune is often played in a rousing military martial style. Not this time. Your acts of patriotism, your acts of resistance against the present regime can be performed quietly without fanfare. Large and loud demonstrations are necessary. As you already know, I'm sure the second No Kings rally, which we hope will be massive, will be taking place on October 18th. But every little gesture that signals unacceptance of and disdain for the direction of this federal government is valuable. Another spiritual one also associated with the Fisk Jubilee Singers is Wade in the Water. And this is an audience participation opportunity. The lyrics to Wade in the Water were first published in 1901. And as usual, the lyrics have undergone numerous variations. The song is associated with the Underground Railroad. One interpretation is that it was used to signal escaping enslaved people to leave trails and travel literally in the water, where the dogs of the slave catchers could not trail them as easily. More broadly, the song encourages listeners not to fear troubled waters, but to enter them confidently and confront the vicissitudes, the shifting fortunes of life. I think Dean is going to come up here now. You don't want me near the mic for this one.
Yes, we do. This is everybody. This is the actions with you now. I do sing in the shower, but you don't. It's not a pretty sound. So this is really with you.
We'll be the judge of that.
And so wade in the water, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble these waters. And then there's, maybe we'll do two verses of the many, but see those children dressed in red. God's going to trouble these waters. Must be the children that Moses led. So I'll shout out red. God's going to trouble these waters. And then the chorus. And then the second verse, see those children dressed in white. Must be the children of the Israelites. God's going to trouble these waters. And Dean, we hope you'll get in there too. Here we go.
Me? Oh, okay.
You can get
Back
in there
this way.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. In the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Red, wade the water. Must be the children that Moses led. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See those children dressed in white. God's gonna trouble the water. Must be the children of the Israelites. God's gonna trouble the water. Here we go. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
That wasn't too bad. Dean should have held the microphone a little closer, but that's okay. Now, three habanera, also called contradancer, just dance. These are from the preeminent composer of Cuban music in the 19th century. His name was Ignacio Cervantes Cabana. I hope I'm coming remotely close to pronouncing that correctly. He was a great admirer of Chopin, and he was also something of a revolutionary. He was compelled to leave Cuba twice under the pain of death during Cuba's 10 Years' War and then Wars of Independence, because through his performances, he was raising funds for the revolutionary causes against Spain. The three ones that Jacqueline are going to play, and I am not going to embarrass myself in front of Dean with some halfway try at Spanish pronunciation, but roughly the English translations are: one, it has to be, maybe a sort of resignation to exile; two, homecoming or return to the hearth; and three, lost illusions. The pertinence to our days now of lost illusions is too obvious to expand upon, but don't give up. Turning now to the world of labor, I guess you could say. An anthem of the Great Depression was a song called Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? It was written by Yip Harburg and Jay Gorney for the musical New Americana in 1932. Many people credit this song with helping them weather the deprivations of the Depression. Gorney based the tune on a lullaby he had heard as a child in Bialystok, which was then in the Russian Empire, now in Poland, where he was born. When he was 9, Gorney witnessed the Bialystok pogrom in 1906. This was a series of governmental purgings, massacres of Jews, including children. Some 80 to 88 people were murdered. This pogrom forced Gorney's family, then called Gornetsky, into hiding for about 2 weeks until they were able to flee for the United States. Yip Harburg, of course, wrote Over the Rainbow. He was a champion of various liberal causes, racial, sexual, and gender identity and equality, as well as an opponent of moneyed society and religion. He wrote the 1947 show Finian's Rainbow, which was perhaps the first Broadway production with a racially integrated chorus line. The show attacked reactionary politics, prejudice against working class people, and racism, notably Jim Crow laws. He was blacklisted for 12 years from working on Hollywood films, on TV, and radio because of his membership in the Socialist Party and because he refused to identify suspected communists to the House Un-American Activities Committee. In August 1930, in Indiana, 3 black men were arrested for murder and rape. On the night of their arrest, a mob, some equipped with sledgehammers, smashed into the jail where they were being held and dragged them outside. A crowd of some 5,000 gathered. 2 of the men were severely beaten and hanged from a tree. Their dangling corpses and some of the smiling, pointing crowd, men, women, and children, were photographed by a local studio photographer. And during the following 10 days, he sold thousands of souvenir copies of his photo. A few years later, a New York school teacher named Abel Meeropol saw the photo. It haunted him for days, and he eventually wrote a poem about it called Bitter Fruit. The poem was called Bitter Fruit, which he later set to music, calling the song Strange Fruit. Published under the name Lewis Allen, partly to separate his political activities from his teaching career. Billie Holiday famously recorded this song in 1939. Since then, it has been generally regarded as one of the most influential songs of the 20th century. Meeropol and his wife, by the way, eventually adopted the 2 orphaned sons of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg after the Rosenbergs were executed in 1953. That's a whole nother long story. Abel Meeropol died in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. Everybody know where that is? In 1986. Southern trees bear a strange fruit. Blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South. The bulging eyes and the twisted mouth. Scent of magnolias, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for the tree to drop. Simon and Garfunkel recorded Bridge Over Troubled Water, which Paul Simon wrote some 56 years ago in late 1969. The title came from a line in a 1959 recording, "I'll be your bridge over deep water if you trust in my name." That song was a spiritual from before the Civil War called "Mary, Don't You Weep." The lyric in the third verse, "Sail on, Silver Girl," refers to the occasion when Simon's first wife, Peggy Harper, discovered her first gray hairs. Some of us can identify with that phenomenon, and I think it's appropriate today because we have earned those gray hairs. And we shouldn't have to contend with the shit perpetrated by this government. Nor, of course, should anyone else. Our penultimate song is Which Side Are You On? Except for antebellum America and the Civil War itself, it seems that the division between people in this country has never been starker than it is now. If you are not resisting this increasingly authoritarian government in whatever ways you can, consider that you might be condoning what they do. Florence Patton was 12 years old when she first wrote this song in 1912. Her father was a coal miner out on strike. In time, Florence married coal miner and union organizer Sam Reese. The Harlan County War, sometimes known as Bloody Harlan, was a violent labor struggle in southeastern Kentucky. It began in 1931 and lasted nearly 10 years. The miners and their families had, of course, first assumed that local law enforcement, who were their neighbors, would be impartial. They were not. They explicitly fought for the interests of the mining company against the so-called Reds. And when the Kentucky National Guard arrived, as they would several times, the miners expected them to be peacekeepers. They were not. They were strike breakers. One night, the sheriff, a man named Blair, and his deputies came to the Reese home searching for Sam Reese. Florence was alone with her 7 children. The sheriff and his men ransacked the home, then waited for Sam to arrive in order, as Florence assumed, to shoot him. He stayed away. When the sheriff left, Florence, terrorized, tore a page from a calendar on her kitchen wall and rewrote her song, Which Side Are You On? Jacqueline and I would like to thank the Community Church of Boston, and especially Dean Stevens, for inviting us here, hosting this offering. And thank you all, obviously, those who are here and those who are viewing this remotely, and I every once in a while figure out where the camera is. We truly appreciate it. Jacqueline has some CDs there in the back of her latest CD, I Lift My Lamp, which is, like all her music and her CDs, fantastic. And we each have a sign-up sheet so you can keep track of where we are, what we do, either separately or together. And if you would like to host this program for your organization, if any, please let one of us know. The history of the enduring anthem, We Shall Overcome, is hazy. It is thought to have derived from the lyrics of a song published in 1901 by a Methodist minister and gospel song composer called Charles Albert Tindley. And that song was called I'll Overcome Someday. And also another gospel song called I'll Be All Right. The song became an anthem of the labor rights movement and notably was sung by strikers, both black and white, and female, mostly, against the American Tobacco Company in Charleston in 1945, 1946, led by Lucille Simmons, who changed "I Shall Overcome" to "We Shall Overcome." From there, the song traveled to the Highlander Folk School, which is now called the Highlander Research and Education Center. It's located in Tennessee. The director there was Guy Carawan, who taught the song to SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and thus to the American Civil Rights Movement generally. It became the chief anthem of that movement, specifically identified with Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Before We Shall Overcome, let's return just for a moment to Florence Reese. When she was later asked about writing her song, "Which Side Are You On?" she said, "There's no such thing as neutral. You have to be on one side or the other. Some people say, I don't take sides, I'm neutral. There's no such thing. In your mind, you're on one side or the other."
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you both. It was
beautiful, beautiful, inspiring, inspiring. And we hope to hear the rest of Greg's presentations sometime soon, one by one. There's a wealth of learning there. We're hungry to learn. That's one of my mottos about what keeps this place going.
The poem was Bitter Fruit.
The poem
And the
was
song
Bitter
was Strange
Fruit,
Fruit.
and the song was Strange Fruit. I'm sorry, I was way too fast to correct you on that.
was that you?
Falsely correct. That was me. That was me. Knowing about Strange Fruit. I just will say that there's one song that we've sung a lot lately, and it has a chorus. We died in your fields and your factories, strange fruit hanging from a poplar tree, an old coat hanger in a room somewhere, a trail of tears, an electric chair. And then, of course, the hopeful chorus, which is, arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire and lift our voices from the fire. It's a song by Jean Rowe, spelled R-O-H-E, and it's on my new record, and you can find some wonderful versions of it online. It's a new national anthem, something like that.
Sounds good. That sounds good.
We're going to pass this little thing around. It has a $2 bill in it and some ones and a 5 so far. And we need your help to keep this thing going. And we'll also pass around a clipboard for some email addresses. We'd love to keep in touch with you. We'd love you to even consider becoming a member, in taking a part in deciding on the future, and figuring out the present, and celebrating the past of this little funky place in Copley Square. We'd also like to take this moment to call this a homecoming, and either comment on this wonderful presentation, or else just tell us how you spent your summer, or just say a few words. And this could be for people who are here in the audience or people who are online. Is there anyone who would like to just say hello while the plate is being passed around? Or is there anyone who would like to raise their virtual hand? What's that?
Does anybody have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Have you been on the road with this show for a while?
Have you been on the road with this show? Second presentation, yes?
Yes, first one was in Yarmouth Port.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I hope it goes a few more places.
The first one had some of my favorite songs in it, but it went on and on. So we cut out some of my favorite songs because we wanted to get really to the meat of what the tofu and brown rice of what we were doing.
Maybe we ought to do 2 parts.
And what I love about this is just commentary on each one of the songs and background on each one of the songs. I wish there were time in any given concert to really do that in the depth that this does that, instead of just song after song after song, which you have to do if you want to present a concert of songs without any introduction at all, or short introduction. But this was just perfect in that way. Yeah. Let me bring you the mic.
We had a question.
So thank you, really, thank you so much. This really, Dean said it right, it really was inspiring in these times. Letting us feel like, we're part of history, that it's not the first time, and unfortunately won't be the last time probably that we're in these times, but that maybe there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, so thank you. And then I'm wondering what songs you took out of the program.
She wants to know what songs we deleted.
Well, I love playing La Paloma. It's one of my favorite songs, and it's about people who love somebody and they love their country, but they can't live there anymore. And it's sort of has the dove of peace in it. And you feel good when you hear it. It just really, it feels good. But, and then we left out this whole Ukrainian suite that I've been working on and that I play in other concerts. What else did we leave out? We left out another third piece. What else did we? I can't remember now, but it was a favorite. Anyway.
Oh, Chopin.
Oh, yes, I played Chopin Nocturne in E minor, a very brooding nocturne that I had just played.
Much of a revolutionary.
But I had just played it for a presentation with this art peacemakers in Wellfleet, where Howard Zinn's son spoke, because he lives there in Wellfleet. And the person who organized it, this was the anniversary of the Hiroshima bombings. And there's this amazing video that I put in my publicity email but none of you are probably on my list except Bree, but the documentary about this young Japanese American girl whose parents emigrated from the U.S. over to Hiroshima, wouldn't you know it, about 10 years before the bombing, and they brought her piano with her, this upright, not a gem of a piano, but they brought it with her. And apparently she had piano lessons every day. I mean, who can afford that? And she loved playing Chopin. And then she died from radiation the day after the bombings. And the piano lay fallow. It was destroyed basically for many years. But then recently a rebuilder rebuilt the piano, and it's sort of become a symbol in Hiroshima of rebirth. And they had all these young students who could play reams around me with the Chopin, but I played it anyway. I mean, we didn't do the documentary wasn't in this presentation, but and Martha Argerich, very famous classical pianist, was touring through Japan, and she had been a Chopin competition winner, and she said, the soul of Akiko, the young girl, is in this piano, and her parents have saved her. It was a very moving video. It's about 15 minutes, and you can email me and I'll send you the link of it. So after that, I had to play Chopin for them, and so then we put it in this program because it's just so, I feel like we're in the dark night of the soul, and that piece says it all, so that's why we put it in. Anyway, a long answer, but here you go.
Anyone else? Our secretary, clerk, Jose Aleman.
Yes, thank you, Dean, and congratulations to CCB for starting a new season in a great fashion. Thank you for your message and the music, because we need to deliver the message with what we have, right? And oftentimes I put myself in that category, we say, I don't even have papers. I don't even have the resources. I don't even have the time. But we have a lot. We have experience. We have stories. We have talents that we need to put in the common space to deliver the message. So I encourage you to please make yourself available with this message to everywhere, to everybody, because we need to hear that we are in trouble, but we can get out of trouble with the help of God, right? And with the help of all of us. So thank you for delivering that beautiful message.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Let tyrants shake their iron rod, and slavery clank her galling chains. We fear them not, we trust in God. New England's God forever reigns.
That one kicks off
I
the
can't
new
believe
CD, right?
I still remember that from Glee Club in 1973 or something.
important then.
Yeah. That's called Chester by William Billings. That we heard an instrumental version of it, and I want to point to the flowers. Fall colors of the flowers come to us courtesy of Brookwood Farm, who are my next door neighbors at the Saturday Farmers Market in Roslindale, where I sell coffee and crafts. And we have a wonderful coffee for flowers barter going on. And I call that farmer's market my other church. It's a beautiful place to be, and if you're anywhere near Roslindale between now and Thanksgiving on a Saturday, come find out why I call it my other church. Thank you, Brookwood Farm, for those flowers. Have we any other commentaries, either on the Zoom or the YouTube or here? Here we go. Hello, tell us your name.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm actually from Baltimore, Maryland. So you said to say what we did over the summer. Well, I came here to Boston. This is actually my first time here. I've been here since August 11th. And I was looking for a Unitarian Universalist church because when I was coming out of the military in Fort Drum, New York, I found a Unitarian Universalist church and was the RE director there for a little bit and enjoyed it. And I said, let me check out this Community Church of Boston. So here I am.
Welcome.
Like Christina, I am a veteran from New York. My name is William. I've been here since April, and she invited me to come, and I really enjoyed the service, also the songs. And some of the songs that you guys stated earlier, I'm familiar with, you know what I mean? And I was explaining that to her. You know, my question to you: you play the piano. Do you do like ragtime, too?
Do I play ragtime?
Yeah.
I pretend.
Yeah, cause I knew some of the tunes.
I pretend to play all the styles that
Yeah, cause some of the tunes kind of remind me of Scott Joplin a little bit from back in especially 1800s and whatnot. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know what I mean. I really enjoyed it. I mean, thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome. Can I tell a Fort Drum, New York story? There's a little town right near there that's called Holland Patent. Do you remember that place? It's a tiny little town. They have a coffee house. I played there in 1992. And that was right after the first Gulf War, if you all recall. It had this name, Desert Storm, First Gulf War. And I wrote a song that was called, and there's this whole thing that George Bush came up with, the New World Order. And I wrote a song called New World Order. Little did I know that there were several military people from Fort Drum in the audience. And they got up and walked out after the song. And I didn't get, I have been back to that same coffee house, several times since then. But anyway, I want to let you all know about Veterans for Peace that meets here in this room, often on Friday afternoons, 4:30 or so. And also the different military folks that we have in our program. I mentioned already Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. It's a virtual program on October 13th, Monday, October 13th. And he will be, the program will be moderated by Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, also who has been here many times, not many, but 3 or 4 times, sometimes even in person. He lives in DC area. Elderly retired officer who just has a lot to say about our situation and what's going on with the military right now, and all of those generals that we saw in that audience, hearing that just god-awful caca show of a Hegseth and Trump duo. It's horrible. Anyway, a welcome to both of you. Have we any others? Here's Calvin. Welcome, Calvin. It's just so good to see all these people back.
Well, earlier in the event today, William Kunstler was mentioned, who was the first award winner of the Sacco and Vanzetti Memorial Award. Well, back in the 1960s and 70s, I was in prison in Virginia, and I was involved in a civil rights case, Landman versus Royster. One of the plaintiffs in that case was Thomas Wansley, who had been charged with an offense and given a death penalty. William Kunstler was his attorney. And it took until 1976 when Tom Wansley was totally exonerated. and freed from prison. And he lived until the 90s, and then unfortunately he became an alcoholic and died of alcoholism. But another one of his attorneys in that case was Philip Hirschkopf. Philip is still alive. In 1967 represented the Lovings in the Loving versus Virginia case. And he also represented us in the Landman versus Royster case, which desegregated the entire Virginia prison system and got rid of punishments like bread and water and solitary confinement. So a little history from
Lawyers of note. And can we not forget the ones that we're watching on TV, like Mark Elias, like Norm Eisen, like Glenn, what's Glenn's last name? Anyway, thank you for that, and yay for the lawyers and the judges who still have a little bit of integrity. May they help save us. We will save ourselves, but they will help.
I'm going to switch to a slightly lighter theme. Are you still playing for dances? I have been enjoying Jacqueline's music since the 1980s, possibly the 1970s. If you think it's wonderful to listen to her, it's even more miraculous to move in rhythm with her. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything you've done for music, for the dance community, for our community in general.
Yeah.
I want to go for a second.
Okay. Jose.
We have time. And this is a more serious one. It has to do with how the administration of justice, and specifically the judges, are acting in times where if you don't, seems to me that if you don't align, you run the risk of losing your career, your job, your status, your prestige. My question is, since you are a retired judge, thank you for the service. And how, is there something like a union, an association, a guild, anything that can put all these human beings who are very knowledgeable about law and things and justice perhaps, act as a group and put a stop and make, I don't count on the Supreme Justices, by the way, so that from below, as we do with other initiatives, right, we say we don't start from the top, we start from the base. My point is, my question, is there anything like that, an initiative that can grow from the base so that those people at the top understand that they don't represent justice or law?
That's a great question. The bar to that kind of thing, of grouping together as judges, is that judges have to deal with one case at a time, and they have to do it on their own, except for appellate panels, obviously. And there are judges, I'm going to have to be afraid to say, that do seem to hew the line coming from the executive branch. But there are also judges who do what they're supposed to do, and that is follow the law and the Constitution. And I would commend to you a very recent opinion by Judge William Young, who I saw many, many years ago. I'm a little surprised that he's still around, but I'm glad he is. He is just a brilliant jurist, and he has recently written an opinion that very, I was going to say concisely, but it's quite long, but it's worth your seeking out. It's Judge William Young. And he talks about the role of law in this country. And I can't recommend it to you highly enough. And I understand what you're saying, but judges can't really get together and decide a particular case, and that's all they do is decide individual cases. They don't make policy, if you will. and they don't take a group view of anything. They have to do it one at a time, individually. But there are people out there like Judge William Young, and I commend his writings to you, especially the very, very latest one.
Just a quick follow-up to that. Is there any kind of a body, either at the state level or the federal level, that that oversees the conduct of judges and that censures judges, like say with lawyers, the board of bar overseers or anything like that? And is it effective, and can it get rid of judges who do atrocious decisions?
Well, I'm going to have to say that. Well, that's the thing. There are, of course, there's the Judicial Conduct Commission, but it's not really going to go after people for their opinions. And by opinions, I mean, their written decisions. There are other judicial professional organizations, but to go after judges for their stupid opinions is not going to be the function of something like that. It's going to have to wend its way through the appellate process, and you hope that a decision is made before it gets to the Supreme Court, because God knows what they do in any given circumstance. But yeah, there are things. But the only way, for instance, just so you know, in the Commonwealth, state court judges, the only way that they can be ejected from the bench is impeachment through the legislative process. So, which is probably good for me.
Could use that for the Supreme Court stage too.
Would you say something about the federal system where I believe the original thought in appointing federal judges for lifetime was to provide some insulation for these erratic like Trump?
Yeah. Well, exactly right. Judges, it depends on where you are statewide, but federal judges are appointed for life, just like the Supreme Court, just like the appellate division. I mean, the appellate courts are appointed for life. The federal district court judges, who are the front line, like William Young, they are appointed for life too. Here in Massachusetts, judges are appointed for life until they hit 70, and then they are deemed too fragile to continue. So that's what happens here. But you're exactly right. The whole thought of lifetime appointments like that is so that judges can act independently of political influence or any other kind of influence and just make decisions based on the law, not on their personal feelings, not on somebody's pressure, not on a wish to please the public, but law, and that's all. Now, obviously, there are states that have elections for judges, but I always wondered, what do you run on? I'm tough on crime. I mean, is that what you say? What else can you say? I'm going to be fair. I would hope that was intrinsic, but it's not for a lot of people anymore. Everything is politicized, as you pointed out. But you're right. That was the thought, was to have judges appointed for life so that they'd be completely independent.
Yes, John.
I want to thank both of you. It was really a treat to be here, and Jacqueline and I have crossed paths a little bit in the past, largely due to Edmund Robinson, her husband, who's a UU minister, as I am.
John's has been a revered minister at
Bedford. I was 30-some years in Bedford, and I am a community minister at Arlington Street, and as of this week, I am a community minister, an affiliated minister here at Community Church as well. But I'm really glad to be introduced to you, and I want to follow your road show wherever that may take you. And okay, I understand. And one other shout out to a judge. Recently, I heard Judge Pappas, who Paul Pappas, I believe is his name. He was an immigration judge in the Chelmsford court. He had come with his family, I believe, from Delaware to Massachusetts to be an immigration judge, and that they have a system where they're granted some level of tenure after 2 years, and at that exact 2-year mark, he got a monosyllabic letter from the Department of Justice saying, "Goodbye, you're done." Yes, exactly, and I heard him in Chelmsford speak, and was so impressed with the integrity and sensitivity and depth that he brought. And he was not a let him loose judge by any means. He followed the law, and yet was summarily dismissed. And just one example of what he faced was pressure from the DOJ, the Department of Justice, to dismiss charges against defendants who came before him, because so long as the defendants were before him, they were under the auspices of the court, but as soon as charges were dismissed, they would walk out the door and immediately be kidnapped by the Department of Homeland Security, which is just evil. And so I'm really glad that there are some judges who are speaking up, and we need every possible voice. So thank you both.
Thank you.
One more shout out to a judge, which was that this summer we had several events here, even though we were officially closed. One was August 23rd, the anniversary of the execution of Jacqueline Vanzetti, 98th anniversary, and we're gearing up to the 100th anniversary, and we'll have a big hoopla wing-ding to do, coordinated with the Boston Public Library and several other institutions. But we had a really wonderful talk by Judge Peter Agnes, who's a retired judge from the Supreme Judicial Court. It was basically a Jacqueline Vanzetti 101, and I urge you all to see it on our YouTube channel, basically the facts of what it was that happened. And thank you, Judge Agnes, for giving us that really brilliant talk on August 23rd. We are, I know, nearing the conclusion, and the way I know is that the general manager of the restaurant just delivered a box of sandwiches, which I can hardly wait to enjoy and to share with you all from the restaurant downstairs. Al Antico Vinayo, urge you to come sample a sandwich sometime, and they're being especially generous now right at the opening time. This is an outfit that's associated with the Bastianich family. I don't know if you've ever seen Lydia Bastianich, the Italian grandma cook show host on PBS. It's her two children, Joe, who is a sort of a celebrity chef, owns several restaurants in New York and other places, and has been on TV a lot, and her daughter, Tanya, who produces all of her TV shows and her cookbooks. The two of them are sort of the public face of this expansion of Al Antico Vinayo into the United States, opening a bunch of stores. And Lydia, I walked in to do something like figure out something about construction down there, and there's Lydia, and we didn't know she was coming. It was really nice to meet her and chat with her a little bit. So we thank you all for coming to Community Church, either walking here and coming into our auditorium, or turning on your TV and watching us from your bed with your coffee and your newspaper, or on YouTube. And join us again on any Sunday. Again, this Thursday, Immigration Teach-In right here with presenter and author Sarah Towell, and several immigration experts join us. And become a member. You can sign our book, and it gives you all kinds of privileges and rights and happinesses appertaining thereto, like a voice in our programming and a voice in our decisions about what to do with this building. It's a big ornery thing, but we're trying to do the right thing. Thanks again to Amar Ahmad. Luis Guzman has put out lunch for us. Zin Lee keeps our books. Crystal Rollins Jackson keeps our office in order and does all of our beautiful graphic design. Join us again sometime soon, and let's declare the meeting officially over, and let's go and enjoy lunch together. Okay.